Choosing a degree, yeah, it can feel pretty overwhelming, right? But what if your campus wasn't someplace you had to go to, but a device you just open? Today, we're going to dive into this massive shift happening in higher education, where the classroom is literally anywhere you are. So let's break down what this all means for your future.
But first things first, why are so many people even looking for an alternative? Well, it all starts with a question that honestly keeps a lot of students and parents up at night. And that is, why does it feel like getting into your dream college is just getting harder and harder every single year?
Okay, this number right here, it tells a really powerful story. In India, you know the JEE Advanced exam is the gateway to the top engineering colleges. Now get this, just over a decade ago, back in 2013, you had 1.26 lakh applicants. And this year, a whopping 1.91 lakh. This isn't just some random statistic, it's a huge flashing sign of the insane and growing pressure that students are facing. So all that pressure creates something we can call the Great Admission Squeeze. And it's really like a perfect storm, you know? You've got this fierce competition for just a handful of seats. Then you've got the rising costs of coaching and applications, which is a huge burden. And of course, there's the intense stress and anxiety that this all puts on students. What it all adds up to is this really frustrating gap between the students who have the merit and the ones who actually get the opportunity. But here's the interesting part. Out of all this pressure, this really tough environment, a powerful new alternative hasn't just shown up, it has absolutely exploded onto the scene. Yeah, let's talk about the online learning boom. So what are we even talking about here? At its core, online learning is pretty simple. It's taking the whole educational experience, lectures, class materials, even exams, and putting it all on digital platforms. The promise behind it is incredibly powerful. It's about making education fit your life, instead of you having to fit your life around education. And let me tell you, this is not some small niche trend. This year alone, we're talking about nearly 74 million people learning online. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is a 900% increase since the year 2000. It's completely changing the game in terms of who can get an education and how they get it. And you know, wherever you find that many learners, you're going to find a market, a big one. The global e-learning industry is on track to be worth $400 billion by 2026. This isn't some temporary fix, folks. It's a huge, permanent slice of the global economy. So you got to ask, why are millions of people making this switch? Well, the reasons are pretty compelling. I mean, think about it. You get the flexibility to balance work, family, and your studies. You get to learn at your own speed, not someone else's. You're looking at major savings on tuition and all those on-campus living costs. And for a lot of people, it's about finally getting access to courses and specializations they just couldn't find anywhere near them. Okay, so this all leads us to the big question, the one that a lot of you are probably thinking about. With this whole world of education now at your fingertips, how do you actually choose? Do you go for an online degree from an Indian university, or do you look at an international one? All right, let's just start with the most dramatic difference, the one everyone thinks about first, cost. An online degree from an Indian university, you might be looking at somewhere between 50,000 and 1.5 lakh rupees for the whole program. Now compare that to an international one. Suddenly, we're talking about 5 to 15 lakh rupees, and sometimes even more. So if your plan is to build a career here in India, the return on investment, the ROI, from a domestic degree is just incredibly high. But it's not just about the money, right? Recognition is another huge factor. So an online degree that's approved by India's University Grants Commission, the UGC, is totally valid for jobs, for government exams, for higher studies, everything within India. It's a safe, strategic choice. Now, an international degree, sure, it might have that global brand value, but getting it officially recognized here in India often means going through this long, complicated process with the Association of Indian Universities, the AIU. It can be a real headache. And then there's the big one. What happens when you graduate? How do you get a job? Well, Indian universities are now building career support, like resume workshops and placement guidance, right into their online programs. And it's all tailored specifically for the Indian job market. On the flip side, foreign universities, well, their career support is usually focused on their local job markets, like in the US or Europe, which, let's be honest, might not be all that helpful if your goal is to work here in India. Here's another big advantage for Indian programs, the built-in value. A lot of them are now bundling in these really valuable skill certifications at no extra cost. We're talking about things like digital marketing, Python, business analytics, you name it. So you're not just walking away with a degree, you're getting a whole job-ready toolkit. Okay, but let's be real for a minute. Online learning isn't perfect. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. To really get the full picture, we have to talk about the challenges, the real struggles that students can face. When you look at surveys from around the world, you start to see a pretty consistent pattern. Around a quarter of online learners worry about a few key things. Is the academic quality really there? What about the lack of interaction with other students and professors? And maybe the biggest one, how do you stay motivated when you're basically on your own? Look, these are not small issues. They can be the difference between finishing your degree and dropping out. And here in India, some of these challenges can feel even more specific. You've got the digital divide, right? Not everyone has access to high-speed, reliable internet. For practical lab-based subjects, learning online can be a real struggle. It's just not the same. And then there's just screen fatigue, the mental and physical strain of being online all the time. Plus, you do miss out on the social stuff, that collaborative learning that just happens naturally in a classroom. Figuring out how to get past these hurdles is the key to making this work for everyone. And all of this, it kind of brings us full circle, back to where we started.
This quote really hits home because it reminds us of the human cost of that high-pressure admissions race, that feeling of rejection, of not being good enough. That's exactly why having accessible, high-quality alternatives like online education isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. For so many people, it's an absolute necessity.
So, now that we understand the pressure and the potential, where do we go from here? What's next? Let's take a look at the key trends that are already shaping what the future of education is going to look like. There are really three major trends to keep your eye on. First up, we've got hybrid and blended models. This is kind of the best of both worlds. You get the flexibility of online learning, but also some of that valuable in-person interaction. Second, micro-credentials. Think of these as short, stackable certificates that give you very specific, career-focused skills, and this is growing like crazy. And finally, number three, AI personalization. This is where AI-driven platforms actually create a custom learning path that's tailored just for you. So let's end with a question, one for you to really think about. In this new world of education we've been talking about, what does the best degree even mean anymore? Is it the one with the biggest brand name, the fanciest logo? Or is it the one that actually fits your life, your goals, and your future? The great thing is, that choice is now more in your hands than ever before.